Welcome back to Stuff About Money. I'm Xavier Angel, certified financial planner, and I'm joined with my co-host, Erik Garcia, certified financial planner. What's up, Erik? How you doing today?
What's happening? So last time we recorded, you were on the golf course under a tree in the beautiful sunlight, blue skies, day drinking, and now you're wearing a tie.
I'm back in my natural element with my tie. So.
Your natural, that used to be your natural element. That used to be your habitat,
yes.
Coat and ties.
Yes. Yeah. If you remember, if I didn't wear a coat and tie when I was walking out the door, Grace would ask me, Daddy, are you not going to work today?
And I've only worked maybe like 6 days of my life then.
Well, it is refreshing coming in without a tie on. You know,
Grace must think that you don't work hanging out here with me.
You know, we had that conversation all the time. Mm-hmm. What you doing today, Daddy? You don't have any meetings?
What are you dressed up for?
I had a board meeting this morning.
Okay.
So went to the board meeting. We were reviewing the budget for 2023 and making sure everything is good.
Is everything good?
Everything is good. We got our budget together. We made budget for 2022. So everybody's happy.
Okay. Speaking about making budget, actually, we're not talking about making budget. Y'all follow us on your favorite podcast listening app. You can follow us on YouTube as well. Also, check us out on Instagram at planwisely_. We're doing a lot of really cool things with the podcast. We're basically editing the podcast to shorter, more digestible videos. So check us out there. Xavier, what are we talking about today?
Today's interesting. I'm excited about it. So we're coming in and talking about 5 common financial mistakes. 6
Not
minus
6.
1. 6 minus 1.
Okay.
6 minus 1.
It was 6, but someone can't count, so we turned it into 5. And since we both love math, we decided to make it 6 minus 1. 5 financial or common financial mistakes. Now, who is making these financial mistakes?
I find a lot of people are at some point are making these mistakes, specifically prior to them sitting down and working with a planner. You know, they're common, and this setup. Is one of the. It is a setup.
So what you're saying is, a financial planner can help you not make these common mistakes. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, that is what I'm saying.
Hire yourself a planner, people. Hire yourself a planner.
The first common financial mistake that people make.
Hold on.
Okay, all right.
In full transparency, all right. As we share these common mistakes, are we going to share if we've made them? Are we going to be that vulnerable here with our listeners?
I am. I'm ready to be vulnerable with them. We teach what we've been through at one point or another.
Yeah. Sometimes you make mistakes and you learn lessons, right?
You do. And the best lessons come from mistakes.
Okay.
So let's jump into number 1. First common financial mistake, living on borrowed money.
Now, what does that mean, living on borrowed money?
And I'll use myself as an example. I'm going to put myself out there.
6 minus 1 common mistakes that Xavier has made in his lifetime. Number 1.
Coming out of college, my first job, you know, every week I'd run to a Best Buy, I'd run to a clothing store, and I'd go out there and I'd purchase something. And I'd use credit. I'd go out there and purchase it on my credit card. So I was using credit cards to buy the things that I wanted. And normally I wouldn't come back and pay it off at the end of the month. I'd let that sit over there. Well, now when I look back on that, what I'm looking at is what I was actually doing was paying more than what I actually purchased that product for.
Yeah.
Because I used that product before I got it paid off. And normally I'm looking at those double-digit credit card interest rates.
Interest rates?
Yes. Yes.
Visa, American Express, MasterCard, love you.
Oh, they
Not only
do
do they love you, they love Americans. Check this out, just in general. So you're talking about credit card debt. Check this stat out on debt, okay? This was a study done by, I believe it was the New York Federal Reserve Bank. Their report shows an increase in household debt in the second quarter of 2022, increasing by $312 billion with a B to $16.15 trillion. So
that's a lot.
Now, 16.15 trillion. Balances now stand at $2 trillion higher than the end of 2019. So since 2019, there is more than $2 trillion of household debt, an increase. But we're not done. We're not done. Mortgage balances rose by $207 billion in the second quarter of 2022 and stood at $11.39 trillion at the end of June. And credit card balances also increased by $46 billion with a B. That 13% cumulative increase on credit card balances was the highest it's been in 20 years. So that tells me that there's a lot of people living on borrowed money. Now, let's be fair. Okay. It's really hard to live in America without borrowed money. Like, how do you, like, if I'm living on borrowed money right now because I don't own my house outright. I got a mortgage.
You got a car.
So I got a car note. So I'm kind of living on borrowed money. But what you're talking about is, I'm assuming what you're talking about is living above your means on borrowed money.
Correct. You know, going out there and spending on a credit card, Amazon. Let's take Amazon as an example. How many people go out there and spend because they can put it on a credit card with Amazon and buy stuff that they don't need or stuff that they don't have the money to pay for it right now, thinking that I'm going to pay it back at a later date, or I have 30 or 60 or 90 days to pay it back.
We should change this podcast to stuff you don't need to buy with your money on Amazon. Yeah, I find too that when people get in the habit of using debt, it's a vicious cycle where I've got this credit card over here and I've got, you know, my debt's increasing, then I'm going to go borrow more money to pay that debt off, and we're just basically exchanging debt for debt. And there's a strategy if you're trying to get out of debt where that might make sense if you're trading a high interest loan debt for a lower interest rate debt, but it becomes this vicious cycle to where you borrow money, you have high credit card interest rates or high credit card payments, high debt payments, and then you need more money because you got to pay all that interest because it's really expensive. You need to borrow more money because you can't afford to. I think people get the picture here. People get the picture here. Let me tell you this: we don't talk that much about this, but this is something that I don't know if you remember the previous show that I had with Dr. Matt Morris, where we talked about family and relationships and money. The stress and anxiety. So if anyone here is in debt or trying to get out of debt, the stress and anxiety related to debt is off the charts. I was talking to a friend this morning, and she's been trying to get out of debt for some time. They've been very diligent, you know, cutting where they can. And she told me this morning that by spring of next year, they're going to be completely out of debt. And her eyes lit up. I'm like, that's fantastic. And she goes, yeah, my husband for the first time started talking about, like, you know, investing, and I feel like we should have been investing already. And, you know, and I told her, I said, look, paying off debt is, you know, at the end of the day, we're looking at net worth, right? There's two ways to increase your net worth, right? Assets minus liability equals net worth. You can increase your asset by saving and investing, or you can decrease your liability paying off debt. So what she's been doing over the past 8 to 10 years, she's been increasing her net worth by decreasing her debt. And
doing it the smart way. Right.
They're shifting from living on borrowed money to not living on borrowed money. And here's the thing. Anytime you borrow money, think about this. You essentially are robbing your future self or borrowing from your future self. Right? So even if you pay your credit card off, think about this. Even if you pay your credit card off every month, I'm going to the store and I'm dropping $1,000 on something. But I'm not paying it until 30 days from now or 45 days from now or 60 days from now, depending on where you are in your cycle. So I'm borrowing money for myself. When you have a lot of debt and you're never out of credit card debt, you have just robbed your future self of a lot of money.
And Eric, that what you just said actually brings us to one of the common financial mistakes, and that's paying off debt with savings. So let's spend a few minutes on that, because she was doing it the smart way. I had a conversation earlier this week with an individual.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me. So a common mistake is paying off debt with savings. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to have to hear what you have to say because I've got some thoughts on this.
Okay. All right. So had a conversation earlier this week with an individual. He comes to me and he says, hey, look, I'm going to pull some money out of my 401k.
Okay.
I'm going to take that money and I'm going to pay my student debts off because I don't want.
What's the age range of this individual?
Age range is 35 to 45.
Okay. All right.
So he wants to come in with his 401k, pull some money out, and start paying down that debt. Pay it off. He doesn't want it anymore. His thing was, I would rather be in retirement with no student loan debt than to go into retirement with student loan debt. So
how about going into retirement with no money?
Exactly. And that's one of the problems with it.
So let me ask a little bit more because I hate oversimplifying advice because
right.
It's so nuanced. So this individual's, let's say they're under 45, tax rate, high tax rate, low tax rate.
High tax rate.
So 25% effective tax rate.
Right. Correct.
Okay. And about how much debt were they paying off?
$60,000.
$60,000. All right. So to pay off $60,000 of debt from your 401k at a 25%. I don't have a calculator. I'm going to make this up. You basically, it's going to cost you 35% between taxes and penalties. So if you need 60,000, this is going to be bad math. He's got to take out like 90.
Yeah, it's 35 cents on a dollar that you're giving up.
Did I do that math right? Yeah, something like that.
So
like that. Okay, look, so you're talking about. Are you talking about using like retirement savings to pay off debt?
Savings in
so what
general,
happens if I got what if I got $10,000 in the bank in a savings account, but then I've got this like $5,000 credit card with 20% interest? Right. Are you telling me not to use my savings to pay off that debt?
No, I'm not. And that all depends.
Okay.
And I say it depends on because we need to look at where are you? What else do you have? Right now, I couldn't tell you that because I don't know what other assets you have. So if you take that $5,000 out and you're only left with $5,000 in your savings, what happens next month if you need it?
Yeah, I would say having some a little extra cash on the side, even if you have debt, will prevent you from going into further debt.
Correct.
And the goal, obviously, the goal is to get out of debt. Okay, but the long-term goal is to develop habits of not going into more debt. So in the process of paying off debt, which is part of the goal, you want to start building new habits of not going into more debt. So if you have cash on the side, you're starting to build this new habit, this new behavior of, man, I need a couple extra $100, but oh my gosh, I don't have any savings because I paid all my debt off. So then what are you going to go do? Go into more debt because
go into more debt.
So I do like the idea, and how much you should have in an emergency fund. That's really going to depend on a lot of different factors. So, paying off debt, I can see where using savings to pay off debt could be a bad thing, but I could also see where it's a wise thing if you've got money sitting idly doing nothing, and then a $10,000 debt over here that's costing you 15% a year. Right. Maybe there's a middle ground that we take, and then aggressively build back up that savings account. So don't pay off debt with savings. So common mistake number 1 was living on borrowed money. Number 2, paying off debt with savings. What is numero tres? And
this is one that excites you. We had a long conversation about this one. So spending too much on your house.
Oh, did we have a long conversation?
We did. We had a conversation about this. This has come up a couple times in the planning process, and you and I shoot stuff around all the time, so we started talking about it.
So, do you remember on the Building Us podcast, before you were a co-host of the Stuff About Money podcast, you came on and co-hosted with Matt and I, and we did a show called Our Biggest Financial Mistake? Do you remember that? Do you remember what mine was? Do you remember what mine was? I'm going to be real vulnerable with you people here. I'm about to tell you one of my biggest financial mistakes in my life.
I do not remember.
You don't? It's on the internet. You can go listen to it if you want.
I'm going to go back and listen to it.
All right, here it is.
Okay.
Here it is. I think a lot of people would make this mistake. Okay. They try to accumulate what their parents took 30 years to accumulate, they try to accumulate it in 5 years. My biggest financial mistake was building my house too soon. Still real early in my career, and maybe like 4 years or so into my career, and I built my house. Same house I'm in today. Now, it wasn't a terribly expensive house, but I look back and think, man, I had like a $400 mortgage, right? If I would have waited a couple of years, it was a little uncomfortable. It was a small house. It was a true starter house. I could have saved up a lot more money, and borrowed less, or saved more, or taken advantage of more compound interest. But I look back and think, obviously I don't beat myself up too much about that. That's a small mistake compared to some other things. I was in an industry where I had some increasing income or potential. So it was a little bit, I'm not going to say this, but it was a calculated risk. It's a calculated risk, but anyway, which, by the way, probably caused me to live off of more borrowed money a little bit longer than I needed to.
So going in and purchasing
too much house,
spending too much house could cause you to go in there and put yourself further and further in debt by using credit cards. Or is that what I'm hearing you say?
Here's the thing about buying too much house or spending too much on your house. So first, what's an appropriate amount to spend on your house? Let's address that. And I've heard a couple of different rules of thumb. Kind of one of the prevailing rules of thumb is your housing spend should be no more than 28% of your pre-tax monthly income. General rule of thumb. A lot of problems with that. I say a lot of problems. There's a lot of what about with that. Okay. What about taxes? What about insurance? If you live in coastal America, i.e., or especially New Orleans, or pick your coastal city, insurance is freaking expensive. So you might be able to afford some on the principal and interest, but then you have to factor in the fact that taxes and insurance is going to basically be your principal and interest payment twice over. Now, what the banks tell you, and for all my mortgage friends listening, don't take any offense to this. Your mortgage broker is always going to tell you can afford more house than you can. Right? It's almost like me going to a mortgage broker saying, "Hey, how much house can I afford?" It's almost like asking a fox to count the chickens in a chicken coop. You follow? In our space, we call that conflicted. Now, it's not wrong. I mean, obviously, again, loan officers aren't out there to misguide or mislead. I have mortgage brokers that I lean on regularly. But here's the point. What you can afford to pay today can change tomorrow. There's factors that could impact whether you can continue to pay that, i.e., look at everyone in New Orleans right now with the cost of insurance rising. People are having a legit hard time making their mortgage payments because insurance is so expensive. I don't know if you remember, this was back before the crash of 2008 when, our adjustable rate mortgages were really cool and people were getting approved for god-awful amounts of money that they had no business borrowing, but mortgage brokers were lending it to them. And then 5 years down the road,
those arms blew up.
Those loans blew up. They adjusted. The rates went up. And guess who didn't make any more money? The people who borrowed. And a lot of people lost a lot of property. So, buying too much house can be a problem. Here's something else that's really interesting. I just recently read Stop Acting Rich and Start Living Like a Millionaire. All right, Stop Acting Rich and Start Living Like a Millionaire. Dr. Thomas Stanley, you've probably heard me refer to The Millionaire Next Door. Same guy who wrote that book. Basically, he talks about how the less affluent, the people who think they're rich, the less affluent, how they're falling into this like elite luxury brand lifestyle. Right? They want to live like rich people, but yet they're spending money on these luxury brands, and as a result, that's keeping them from building true wealth. That the real millionaires are not necessarily out there flaunting luxury brands. Some are, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the point is, stop acting rich, start building wealth. All right. In his book, what he looks at a couple different consumer spaces of things that we spend money on. One is housing. This is actually really interesting. He says you should not be in your neighborhood, in your community you live, all right? You should be one of the higher income earners in your community. He goes, the problem is if you're one of the bottom income earners in your community, then you're going to see all the cool stuff, the domestic workers, the lawn people, the expensive cars. You're going to see all that stuff that your neighbors who make more money than you have that you don't have. And then you're going to fall into that keeping up with the Joneses trap. So you got the house, you might be able to afford the note, but can you afford all the additional things that go along with it?
Mm-hmm. And that's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with. It is.
So are you at the top, of wage earners in your neighborhood? I've been thinking about that, like looking around my neighborhood, like where do I fall? Obviously, you don't know what your neighbors make,
right?
But if all my neighbors are driving, $100,000 cars, and I roll in with I actually really don't care what my neighbors drive. I'm not really influenced by that, but you get the point, right?
I get the point, and it's an interesting point. And what book was that again, Eric?
It's called "Stop Acting Rich and Start Living Like a Millionaire." It's a great book.
So definitely take a look at it. We've actually told a couple people to go out there and purchase it and read it. So we get that question often.
All right. So where are we at now? What number are we on?
We are on number
4.
4. So our fourth common financial mistake is not investing for 401k in a 401k or retirement. Mm-hmm. And this has been a conversation that you and I have had. We've been going out and talking to participants.
Can we rephrase that mistake? Can we rephrase that mistake? Not everyone has the ability to contribute to a 401k. So let's rephrase it, not investing for retirement. How about that? Not investing for retirement. Can we do that one? Okay.
We can do that. Right. Look, I just restated it for you. So
you're so flexible.
Yeah.
Look at that. He even loosened his tie. Look at that.
So, for those of you not watching it, I'm got a big smile on my face right now. Eric's been poking at me all day about
you can loosen it a little bit more, man. It's still kind of tight. So your neck rolls are starting to. Your neck rolls are kind of over your collar, man. Loosen a little bit more.
Oh, now you're talking about my neck rolls. Oh. Yeah. So our fourth common financial mistake: not investing for retirement. So this is a big one. Let's look at. I'm 45 years old. I've got. I said 45. I'm 47. Because I know somebody out there is going to be talking about me. You don't know your own age. So I'm 47 years old. And let's say I hadn't started saving for retirement. Is it too late? I get that question often. What's too late? Is it too late for me to start? And the answer is no. Better late than never. But if you don't do it, then you're not going to have any income coming in once you do get to that point. So let's say 67 years old, I want to retire. I got to have something.
All right, hold up. Okay. But Xavier.
Yes.
I'm 25. I'm really not. We're role playing here. When you grow up in the financial space, they teach you to role play. Okay, so we're role playing. Xavier, I'm 25. I got plenty of time to start saving for retirement.
Compound interest.
What about compound interest? What does that mean? Like, really? So my options are to invest in something that's 40 years away, or go travel the world with my friends and go skiing and do cool stuff and buy nice motorcycles and stuff. Like, come on, man.
So,
really?
Budgeting. And this is one thing that I tell my 25-year-old, my 30-year-olds, let's sit down and build a budget. And from that budget, do you have to put a lot away now? I'm not telling you can't go out and travel the world and do the things with your friends, but let's start putting something away today. Because that compound interest, what you put a penny in today, you earn interest tomorrow off of that penny. That following day,
I hope you save more than a penny.
You want me to use a bigger number?
I told money makes money, and the money that makes money makes more money. Compounding interest. The earlier you start, the better off you are. I told someone once. This wasn't a client. They were getting ready to retire and didn't have much in savings. And I said, look, if I'm you, I'm getting on every financial advisor's mailing list. Okay. And every steak dinner they offer to buy you, every lunch they offer to buy you, I'm going. That's part of your income plan. You get some really nice meals for free. They just kind of looked at me and I mean, come on, it's brilliant.
It is.
I'm going to do that.
Let's get back to this. So even at 25-year-old, you can put a little away today and begin saving and get into the habit of putting it away on a monthly basis into that retirement program, whatever it may be. And next year, revisit it. Can you increase it? But the more you put away, the more that money you put away is going to make money for you.
Mm-hmm. So here's what I would say. I've been reading a lot lately about this economic term. It's called consumption smoothing. Have you heard about that? Any of my economic nerds out there might. So the idea of consumption, and we do this to some extent all the time. The consumption smoothing, what it says is we're going to create a balance between spending and saving during different phases of our life. So let's say, for example, you're a commissioned salesperson, okay? And 1 month you make $6,000, and 1 month you might make $4,000. Well, you're going to make your budget off of $5,000, right? You're smoothing out your spending and your income so that you can maintain a similar lifestyle over the year, okay? Now, if we think about this idea of consumption smoothing over our lifetime, my earlier example about buying too much house too early, well, okay, if I look back and say, I say it was a mistake, but did it really set me back? I was just smoothing my consumption over my lifetime. I had the potential to earn money. I didn't have it yet. I was going to eventually make it. I'm spending it before I had it. Yeah, not a great idea, but I basically was able to smooth out my spending and saving, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of economists, they'll actually say from a pure financial standpoint, they'll actually say, hey, this advice that you financial advisors give that I need to save 15 or 20% of my income even when I'm 20, it's a bunch of crap. He goes, because of consumption smoothing. Because I might not save anything in my 20s because life's expensive, because I want to go on ski trips and friends' weddings overseas. I want to spend money on those experiences. I want to build those relationships. I'm going to make more money later on when I'm 35, 40, 45, when I'm reaching my peak income years, I can catch up. And there's actually a lot of truth to that. And when I look back over my financial life, I probably have done some of that to some extent. But here's what I would say. Even if you're not saving 20% towards your retirement or 15% for your retirement, saving is a habit. Investing is a habit. And what these same economists have found is those people who don't start saving early, even if it's a small amount, they're typically not going to start saving in their 40s and 50s because they never developed that habit. So I would say, yeah, that's cool. You're 20, 25 years old. You're making good money. You want those experiences. That's awesome. Go for it. But save something. Save something. Get the habit that it's like going to the gym, If you stop going to the gym, it's really hard to start going again. If you get used to a certain lifestyle, it's really, really hard to come down from that lifestyle. So I would say that if you're younger or life is gotten really expensive, and I've told people, hey, let's stop saving for retirement right now because you have other things we need to address. It might at this point be smarter to address debt than it is to save for retirement. Mm-hmm. But let's keep taking advantage of your employer match, right? Let's put away 3% at least because that's what you're getting matched. So the mistake is not saving at all for your retirement. And of course, as you get older, as your debt load goes down, as your financial obligations go down, as your income increases, you should start increasing and accelerating those savings.
And Eric, that's again a great lead-in to our next common financial mistake. So
you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan for your future income growth.
Correct, absolutely, because that plan is how much do you save? Where do I save? How do I pay off my debt? You know, all of that comes with planning.
Yeah. So I love this point. And I'm going to talk about something that I actually want to do an entire podcast episode on. So I'm going to kind of skip over some things. We're not going as deep here. When we think of a plan, oftentimes it becomes interchanged with goal, having a goal. And a plan and a goal are two very different things. Okay. A goal is very binary. You meet it or you don't. I'm successful or I'm not. I want to lose 20 pounds. I either lose 20 pounds or I don't. Okay. Goals should be part of our financial plan. The plan should be a direction, right? The goals are going to point us in a direction of where our plan is going. So if my financial plan is the goal of getting out of debt, what happens when I get out of debt? Then what? So if my entire plan is built around just getting out of debt, I'm out of debt, then what do I do? Right? So financial planning to me is about course setting. It's about pointing you in a particular direction. Here's what I find too with plans. We tend to overestimate what we can do in the short term. Right? Have you ever created a short-term goal that's so aggressive, it's so high, and you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? It's really hard to meet. We overestimate what we can do in the short term, but we underestimate what we can do over a lifetime.
Long term. Right.
Okay. So the problem that we have is when we're setting these short-term goals, we tend to overestimate what we can do. So what the plan is long-term. Okay. And we tend to underestimate what we can do over time. So that should point us in a particular direction. So think of this idea of goals are very outcome based, right? Did I get out of debt? Did I not? Did I save for retirement? Did I not? Versus process based outcomes. Process based outcomes are, I'm going to save a certain percentage of my income. I'm going to spend a certain set amount of money. That's a process. That makes sense? Versus an outcome.
Right. So
what happens is all too often we focus on what we want to achieve. And this is all tied to having a plan. We focus on what we want to achieve. I want to get out of debt. I want to save $1 million. Versus focusing on what we want to become or where we want to be. Now that kind of, like, what are you talking about, Eric? It sounds a little crazy. Think about this. I remember when I first started back to the gym about 3.5 years ago consistently. And there was a bunch of middle-aged people at our gym. The gym owner called us all athletes. She called us all athletes. Okay? She goes, y'all are athletes. And look, we had people in there that were not athletes. Okay? But she called us athletes.
Motivation.
What do athletes... No, not motivation. What do athletes do?
They work out. They work out. Sports.
They play. They're active.
They're active.
They're active. They typically eat well. So she comes in there and she says, "Y'all are athletes." She gave us a new identity. Right? We're not middle-aged people who are lazy, who just overeat and drink too much. No. We're athletes, and athletes work out. Athletes take care of their body. Athletes are active. Now this line sounds like head voodoo. I get it. But it's very difficult for us to act in a way that's incongruent with how we see ourselves. If I see myself as an athlete, then I'm going to be more inclined to act like an athlete. If I see myself as someone who's bad with money and in debt and I'll never be able to get out of debt, more than likely I'm going to act like that person. But if I see myself as someone who spends less than they make, someone who's developed good, healthy behaviors, someone who saves regularly, when I act in a way that's incongruent with that, that's inconsistent with that, I'm going to stop and say, wait a minute, that's not how a financially successful person acts. So what the plan does, the plan paints that picture of where we want to be and who we want to become. I am a saver. I am a creator. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm someone who makes good financial decisions. Now, you're going to have to unlearn behaviors, and that's okay. That's where accountability comes into play. But there is a lot of research that supports this idea that when we believe a certain aspect about our identity, our behaviors are more going to be in line with that identity. So goals are very binary. I'm going to get out of debt. I'm not thinking about myself any different, but I am responsible with money. Then worry about the outcome of getting out of debt. That's what the plan is.
So I don't know about our.
I was
going to say I don't know if our listeners got what I got out of that, but Eric, you just took us to school.
What? Take you to school? Yeah, they don't teach that in school. They should. They should.
So let's recap.
What did you get out of that?
Out of the.
Break it down for us, man.
I'm a break. Look, when putting my plan down, it's not just about my goals. My goals are going to help me to get to that end point. And it's about consistency. You know,
see, I don't think there's an end point with plans. There's no end point with plans.
But it's the consistency in creating those goals that are going to help me to continue to grow.
To keep you in that direction.
If it keep me in that direction. It is the, you know, and I'm trying to think of the words for it. Habit. It's all about habit.
It's ongoing. So, like, here's the thing about plans.
If I get into the habit of doing something, then I'm going to continue to do it.
So think about this. Think about this. If I were to come in here and say, Xavier, you got 5 years to live. You're going to be healthy. Your health will be fine, but you got 5 years. And then that's it. That's all you got. What do you do differently?
I'm traveling.
You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer.
I'm traveling.
But what that does is what that question does. It gets us thinking outside of how we normally think into some areas that I would never do that. Oh, unless I'm told I only have 5 years to live. To me, that's the plan.
Right.
That's what we're moving towards. It's man, I want to be super charitable, and I want to start a foundation, and I want to serve, young kids with a particular type of cancer, or I want to serve this particular community of people, and the only way I can do that, it might take me 20, 30 years to get there. To me, that's exciting. It's what drives you, what motivates you. That's the plan.
And so, Eric,
getting out of debt, saving for retirement, those are just mileposts along the way.
And so I'm going to challenge our listeners. After you listen to this, sit down and challenge yourself. What motivates you? Think about that. What motivates you? What direction do you want to go in? And give that some thought. So that's my challenge to you guys today.
All right. So that was our 5 common mistakes.
That was our 5.
6 minus 1.
6 minus 1
equals 5.
Yep. Living on borrowed money. Our first comment.
That was. We're going to name this the square root of 5 common mistakes that people make.
Square root of 5.
Is that right? Did I do that right, math? My wife would be totally upset. My wife's a math person.
Yeah, I was going to say, Grace. She'd be upset. If Grace hears this one, she's going to get on me because we talk about math often.
Awesome. So I'm sorry. Recap.
Right.
Give us a recap
okay.
so we can shut this thing
Here's
down.
our recap. Our first common financial mistake is going to be living on borrowed money. Our second common financial mistake is going to be spending too much on your home.
Don't do it.
Our third,
until you can.
Until you can. Our third is paying off debt with our savings.
Think twice about that.
Fourth is going to be not investing in retirement, in your retirement.
Work that muscle, people. Come on. Build that habit.
And our fifth common financial mistake is going to be 5. Not having a plan.
Not having a plan. No direction.
6 minus 1. Not having a plan.
That's it. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time. I hope this is helping you build financial security.
Appreciate you guys. If there's a topic that you guys would love us to hear talk about, shoot us an email.
Let us know.